On today's History of Politics, we're going to talk about Article 6 of the United States Constitution. It's a short one. It involves three clauses, very important ones, but three clauses. Okay? And one of them is actually brought up a couple of times in the Constitution. But let's go here. We'll start with the first clause, which is also called the debt clause. And basically, what that says is that any debts that were incurred by the United States, any agreements that were incurred by the United States or caused by the United States before this Constitution are still valid. So, in other words, anything, any debt, war debt, or anything like that owed to another country, owed to other people, deals between the United States and farmers, providers, et cetera, those things are still, after the Constitution took place, when we went from the Confederacy to the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution, those debts are still valid. And just for a quick second, just for an aside, I want you to understand, most people that talk about sovereign citizenry, most of those people are going by a document called the Articles of Confederation, which came about before the United States Constitution. It was a different set of laws in the land, but be aware that the United States Constitution is what's called a superseding document because it came after the Articles of Confederation, and that is the law that we have to go by. So, those are the laws that we go by now, and the Articles of Confederation are no more. So, check your sources before you start exercising sovereign citizenship under the Articles of Confederacy, rather, because they don't hold. They never hold, and you will be in jail. Okay, moving on. The second clause of Article 6 is what's called the Supremacy Clause. What that says is the Constitution, laws, and treaties made by the United States are the supreme law of the land, and no state can usurp them. What that means is, and I'll give you an example here, a very recent example. If we go back to 2023, there was the case of Trump v. Anderson. And what Trump v. Anderson was about was that the state of Colorado wanted to take Donald Trump's name off of the ballot because he was an insurrectionist. Now, two separate courts, actually three, because the appeals court also affirmed, but three courts adjudicated Donald Trump as an insurrectionist. Granted, and that does violate the 14th Amendment, Section 3. It does. But here's the thing. And this is what the Supreme Court said, and rightly so, in their 9-0 ruling. They said that there is nothing in the Constitution or no law that says that he couldn't run, that he couldn't be on the ballot. And what they were trying to say in their dicta was that Congress would have to create a new law to ensure that he couldn't run in an election as an insurrectionist. However, the issue started out with one state, and herein lies the problem, because the states do not have the power to decide in federal elections who and who cannot be on a ballot. So the federal law is supreme to state law in that realm. Just like the states are required to collect from their individuals, they're required to collect taxes for the federal government. It has to be done. The state can collect taxes for itself as well, which they do, in most cases, but it is a requirement that those federal taxes must be collected. Plain and simple. That's it. And finally, the last clause in Article 6 is what's called the Oath Clause. And basically, what that says is that federal representatives and senators, state legislators, members of the state legislation, executive and judicial officers of the United States and the states shall swear or affirm and be bound by an oath to the Constitution, but no religious test or qualification is required. So what that means is that if you are serving in any official capacity, the federal or state or county government, whatever the case may be, if you're involved in any government at all, you will take an oath to the Constitution of the United States. Listen, in New Jersey, your oath is to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of New Jersey. Just to give you an example. Police officers swear to it. Council people swear to it. Any type of executive or judicial officer, judges are sworn to it. I'm talking state government right now, state, county, municipal government. They all take an oath to the Constitution and either the state constitution or whatever level that they're on. But it's definitely going to be to the Constitution of the United States. As well, in the federal government, if you are being, if you're any kind of executive or judicial officer, that means president, vice president, a justice on the Supreme Court, a representative, a senator, anyone who gets sworn in, you're going to take an oath most definitely to the Constitution of the United States, which brings to mind how many people at this point have violated their oath to the Constitution. But that's a discussion for another day. However, when we go back to Article 1, or excuse me, not Article 1, when we go to Article 2 in the Constitution, it also speaks about that involving the president and the vice president, that they too, and it specifies they must take an oath to defend, preserve, and protect the Constitution. Now, conversely, no religious test can be applied. And part of that is in the First Amendment, which is also known as the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment, which indicates that no national religion shall be established. Now, when you say that this is a Christian country, you're somewhat right, but you're somewhat wrong, and here's why. It is true that the founders of this country, the settlers, a lot of them were Protestants, okay? And a Protestant, as we know, is a Christian. We do know that for a fact. A Protestant is a Christian. And the settlers that came from England, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, technically, they would be Christians. But it's not a requisite for them to be leaders. That's number one. Number two is that although those people were Christians by faith, this country is not a Christian country because of the Establishment Clause. There is no national religion. And at this point in time, Christians do not make up the majority of Americans. You have plenty of Asian Americans who are Buddhists. You have American Americans who are Buddhists. You have Jews. You have Hindus. You have Sikhs. That's S-I-K-H, Sikh. okay, which is a faith that comes out of East India. The guys with the turbans on their head, they're Sikhs, just so you know. You have Roman Catholics. You have a variety. You have Muslims, which is very predominant in this country now, both naturalized and those that brought it here. Okay? So the bottom line is no, you cannot call this a Christian country anymore because you have a variety of faith bases here. And any one of those faith bases, even if they don't have a faith base at all, if they're agnostic, if they are atheist, that does not preclude them from running for political office or government office or being a judge. And let me just say this as a Christian pastor and minister of nearly 21 years. Jesus himself said that we're not to persecute them, but we're supposed to love them because we do not have the power to send any of them to heaven or hell for not believing in the God that we believe in. It's up to God to make that decision. God and God alone can make that decision. God and God alone has the power to send anyone to heaven or hell. Jesus said that we are to love them. Jesus was all about loving people with differences. And when you love people with differences, you leave the rest of it to God, the judgment part. We leave that to God. Let God sort them out. And that goes not just for people of different faith bases, but different national origins, or different sexual orientations, or different genders. Jesus said, love them. And he didn't mean like get emotionally involved in them, but he did say to love them, respect them. High and by. Love them from a distance if you got to. But don't perform acts of hate against them. As one who is not MAGA, I have tried my very best on this channel to reach out to MAGA and ask them to come back to the America that we're supposed to be, a unified America, a non-hate-filled America, the America of 9/11, where everybody came together against terrorism. But the forces that don't want that, like Donald Trump and the MAGA party, they don't want that. They want us divided because it's easier for us to be conquered that way. That's the facts. And that is Article 6 of the Constitution. If you learned something today, I want you to know the political discourse is invited as long as it's respectful. But I have to issue warning that if you bring any disrespectful contact to this channel, you will get it back before you get blocked and deleted. Otherwise, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. One more article to go on a Friday. So get ready for it.